Hello and welcome to this edition of From the Bookshelf. And the premise of our show is that the reading and writing of quality information in discussion and dialogue lead to a benefit for the society, for our town of Walpole. We're presenting a different topic today in this particular show. Different in the sense that it's perhaps something that might astound some people it might be put off, but we believe it's a fact and a part of our total reality here in society, perhaps in our town. I'd like to now introduce our guest for today, Kelly Lombardi.
Yes.
Thank you for coming here, Kelly.
Thank you for having me.
And let's begin by having you talk about what it is that you do. Giving us some background on the phrasing, you present to us a side of life called paranormal. Mm-hmm. So perhaps you can, one, explain what that is,
okay,
but then step back and say, what brought you and when did this happen that you wanted to become a paranormal investigator? Mm-hmm. Is that the right terminology?
That's the right terminology. You know, like you said, I'm a paranormal investigator. Some people know it as ghost hunting. And I started reading all about the paranormal when I was about 15 years old. Para means beyond, and normal meaning normal, so it's beyond the norm. Anything you would think is beyond the norm. And metaphysics, so I studied paranormal and metaphysics for over 30 years. Wow. Meta meaning unknown, and physics, the sciences. I was 12 years old, and this is how I first got into it. I was 12 years old, and I saw my first apparition in my childhood home. I was sitting in the living room, and from down the stairs came this large, shadowy figure, just a head and shoulders. And it was dense. It was like a gray, dark mass, but just flowing. No face, no arms, no legs, just like a cloud, a thick-formed cloud.
Now, you were alone?
I was alone.
Right.
Yep. It came down the stairs, and it passed in front of me, and I looked through it, and I could see through it because I saw the other side of my living room.
So it wasn't like a solid mannequin or figure?
Nope.
Like,
it was dense,
right,
but transparent.
Okay.
And it just came in front of me, and it came around towards my back to go into the kitchen. And I was too shocked, I can't say frightened, I was too shocked to turn my head to follow it. I was just kind of petrified. Right. But I turned my eyes to my television, which was off, and acted as a mirror. And I could see that this thing went behind me,
right, okay,
through the kitchen door. The kitchen door was open, and there was a screen door. And as it went through the screen door, it vanished. It just dissipated. And that was my very first apparition I ever saw. Saw it only one time in that house. Nothing else happened. For some reason, I had a feeling that it was attached to my sister, who had just recently moved out. She got married and moved out. I had just pulled apart my bedroom. It was my room finally, all to myself. There was basically nothing left of hers there in my room.
Right.
And even at age 12, I thought, I think that was attached to my sister somehow. Don't know where the thought came from. I do have a sister that lives in Florida who does not like to talk about the paranormal at all. And I was discussing I was going to be on this show. This was 2 days ago. And she finally told me, she says, well, let me tell you what happened. She saw the same thing several times. It kind of used to come towards her, and one time it hovered over her bed. She saw it standing in the room several times. I do remember as a child her screaming one time for my mother that there was something in the room. And she put it all out of her mind and never discussed it. She never told me, ever, until just 2 days ago.
Right.
And it was confirmation for me that, yes, I absolutely saw what I saw, which I knew all along I did.
Now, when you saw this figure, how old was your other sister?
She was 18 and had moved out. It started with her when she was 15.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm. And it never showed itself to me, just that one time.
Yeah.
Now, I do my paranormal investigation with my husband, who is the cameraman, the tech man. He has very healthy skepticism. And my other sister that lives around here, she also is a sensitive, very intuitive to different energies around her. And it's she and I and my husband that do the investigations, sometimes along with my son, who's a great investigator. Absolutely has no fear, because we're in pitch blackness at some times, and things do happen. And so it's basically us that, go about and we do investigations, and I'm hoping to just get more cases to go to. Certainly the older homes in Walpole, to, help out Walpole people that think something might be going on.
Right.
And all investigations are free. Paranormal investigators do not charge for any of their time to go in and to help people that think something might be going on. They need validation and confirmation sometimes.
So in this situation where your sister had moved out and you had this vision, my word vision, right? So you saw, right? But there was nothing to touch, feel. At that time, of course, you didn't have a camera.
No.
So you just remember seeing what was going on. And you felt perhaps there was some attachment. I'm not quite sure what that kind of means, but anyway, I'll come back to that.
Okay.
And now you have another sister who could relate and say the same kind of experience happened to her?
My sister that I thought this was attached to. Right now lives down in Florida.
Okay.
But she will not discuss the paranormal or anything at all.
Right.
She put that whole experience behind her, completely suppressed it until a couple of days ago. My other sister, my older sister, and they're both older, my oldest sister, who lives here, she is very much like me. Has always been interested in parapsychology and metaphysics. And she is on my team. Did I answer your question?
Well, I'm trying to get a sense of, given that anecdote, which is really something very real, obviously it happened to you, to your sisters, in this idea of an attachment. So I want to go beyond just what you see or what you feel, what may be in the video camera, but what's the reality, if you will, of this attachment? Is it perhaps something saying, well, your sister had moved out. Now you see evidence of something where she hasn't completely gone. It's not a figment of your imagination, right?
Correct.
It's something real. But then again, for the skeptics, for the cynics, what does that translate into? What was the reality? Suppose, for example, we go to an old abandoned house in Walpole, and we go and we do some investigation and so forth and so on. And if we see evidence of the paranormal, what does it mean to our either knowing or not knowing?
That the paranormal exists?
Right.
A lot of people want to know if there's life in some way, consciousness, after the physical body dies. Some people want to know that. Some need to know that. The why some people, after they pass, their energy seems to be left behind, or they themselves haven't quite crossed over. Some people wonder about that and need those answers. Is it energy? Is it actually the soul of somebody? Those things are still unknown. We don't know. And when I say to someone, I don't know, I like that. That's a positive thing. So many things have been taught to us, information that's existed forever. Things we learn in school is just somebody else's ideas or opinions or facts that we just parrot back. We retain information and we spout it out. But this is all unknown stuff. It's still very much theory. It's interesting. It's cutting edge. And so when I say, I don't know, that's a good thing. We don't know. It's so exciting to find out things or to form your own opinions on things. For the skeptic, nothing would convince them.
Right.
Unless
Yeah.
they were to have their own experience.
Yeah.
Our best tool for investigations are our bodies. The hairs will stand up on the back of your neck. You'll feel somebody holding your hand. You'll feel like cobwebs come on you. It's your personal experience. I could tell you, I feel cobwebs on me right now. There's no proof of cobwebs or that feeling somebody just pushed my shoulder.
You can't see it. Right,
Exactly.
right.
That's a personal experience.
Right.
If you have a personal experience with a piece of equipment,
Right.
both reacting at the same time, or a photograph or a video being taken at the same time you're verbalizing you're having a personal experience,
right.
it makes it more credible.
Sure.
You know, like any scientific, investigation, you
right,
need measurable,
Forensic evidence.
yes,
Yeah.
reliable data.
Right, right.
And that's what paranormal investigators do now.
Sure.
And I've had many physical and personal experiences along with capturing a few things on digital recorders. But if
Right,
you tell these things to a skeptic,
Right.
they're
If they
not
don't-
going to believe,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Right.
And that's okay.
Well, so in one sense, I'm listening to you and saying, I wonder if there's any kind of connection that you could talk about. Many people will talk about the fact that in a dream, perhaps, or maybe in the consequence of doing something very normal, like myself, I'll wake up in the morning, jump in the shower, do some ordinary stuff. Maybe I'm standing at the mirror shaving and so forth. And I may have a sense that my wife, who 20 years ago passed away, is kind of maybe talking to me. Not words that I can tell you about, but just as a sense of her being with me.
Right.
Or in the kitchen while I'm making supper and she may be saying, do it different, whatever. You have these senses. But there's no reality. I'm not seeing any shadowy figure.
Correct.
It's just the kind of, some people call it channeling or being in touch with someone who was there, who's no longer there. Now you talk about your sister who had lived with you in the house and packed up and left. And maybe it was a situation for you still not having wanted to have your sister leave. There's, I suppose psychologically we could think of all kinds of, and so there's a sense of maybe a spirituality, maybe a religious overtone to it, but does any of this connect with what you understand in the paranormal?
Well, not so much the spirituality of it.
Right.
It's more, and it's not like my wanting my sister to still have been there.
Right. That wasn't in your consciousness?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was happy to have my room by myself.
Bye-bye. Right.
I
Yeah.
wanted her gone. I
Right.
wanted my room to myself.
Yeah.
And because of her experiences, she always had to sleep with a light on.
Oh.
I hated that. And it was the hall light that
So
had
the
to be
two
on.
of you in the same
In
room?
the same room.
Right.
And
But the light had to be on.
had to be on. Didn't know, but it was because she was seeing things.
Right.
And that comforted
Yeah.
her that there was a light on.
Okay.
I have to have it pitch black.
So now...
I wanted her gone.
So when she was gone, that was good.
Oh, it was great. It was great.
But somehow, as you say, maybe there was an attachment, maybe...
This thing was attached to her. This type of energy,
Right.
this thing is all I can say. I don't
Yeah,
know what,
right.
it wasn't a shadow figure because
Right,
that's
right.
completely different. That's a
Right,
different,
right.
subject. But it was a type of energy, and from what she told me, it was not a nice energy. It was something that was scaring her.
Right.
Whatever it was, attached to her. Whether, I should ask her this question, was she young, younger and playing with a Ouija board or something